Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing an indigo video with some stitching. This process is probably going to take a little while, so I'm excited to just put on a podcast and stitch away and relax. This is how I like to chill out. So let's get started. I'm using a 100% cotton t-shirt that has been pre-washed using Synthropol, also known as dyer's detergent. The first thing I'm going to do is give it a good press. It's hard to press knits, so I'm just doing my best and I just want to get all the major wrinkles out. The next thing I'm going to do is mark where I want my stitch marks to go. I'm using a quilting pen that is not permanent and a T-square here so I can get a perfect 90-degree angle. As you can see, I'm making a diagonal pattern going just on the front. I'm not going to be doing the front and the back. You could do the front and the back if you want to do double the tying up, but I'm just going to do it on the front for this one. Next thing I'm going to do is thread my needle with an extra strong thread. This is actually coat thread, and I will link all of the supplies that I'm using for this project down in the description box down below for you. I'm going to make a big chunky knot, and then I'm going to start to make a running stitch along the marks that I have made with my marker. Here's a close-up and a replay of that previous clip. I'm making large stitches that are about 3/4 of an inch or so along the line that I've drawn with my needle. I'm being careful not to tangle the thread and pick up both the front and the back of the t-shirt with each stitch. I'm going to be gathering these stitches later on, so I want to make sure that the thread is not tangled and to leave a nice generous tail of thread on the one side that does not have the knot. So you can see there, I'm just going to cut it off and leave it. I'm going to do a running stitch on every single line that I drew, and this can actually take quite a lot of thread, so just make sure you have enough. And I like to make sure that the knots on the one side are very thick and chunky, and that I'm leaving a long enough tail on the opposite side so that I can pull it and it will not get drawn back into the running stitch. So here it is all stitched up, and the next step is to gather. But first I want to say, if you're enjoying this video, be sure to hit the like button and consider subscribing if you like content like this. When I say gather the fabric, I mean pull both ends of the thread and scrunch the fabric into the middle of it. I want to make sure there's a long tail on both sides, and I'm going to do one direction first and then turn it around and do the opposite direction. It's going to get very scrunched, and it should make peaks and valleys with the pattern. After I get the t-shirt gathered on all of the thread both ways, I'm going to start to tie off the threads. So I'm going to take the ends that belong to the same thread and tie them up in the back of the t-shirt. This process took me a little while. When I tie off the ends of the threads, I want to make sure that it's pretty tight, but I don't want to snap my thread. That's another reason why I like to use coat thread, so that it won't snap nearly as easily. The main thing is you want to have the little squares into these little peaks so that you can now come in with some twine and wrap those pieces from the base of the gathered square all the way up to the tip. They should look like little tentacles. What I like to do is start at the base of each one of these little peaks and wrap it around a few times and leave the thread loose, and then go all the way up to the tip and back down, and then tie off the loose thread with the thread that I cut. So each one is really secure. Okay, it's all wrapped up. It looks really crazy, and it's ready to go in the vat. All right, I'm at my dyeing station. I have my indigo set up here. This is an indigo vat that I made up yesterday because I was teaching an indigo class. So it's not as fresh as I'd like it to be, but we're gonna see how this goes. For this one, I'm going to do a wet dip. So I'm going to get my piece wet in this pot of water. gonna let this soak for a few minutes. So I'm just going to wring out my piece over here. I want it to be wet, but I don't want it to be sopping wet. All right, let's get that activated. If you're interested in learning more about indigo tie-dye, I'm gonna link a video that is a really good suggestion for you at the end of this video. All right, here it goes. So you can see it's getting a nice green color, and after I take it out, it's going to oxidize. All right, I'm gonna let this oxidize, and then I'm gonna dip it a few more times. Okay, so it's turned to a really nice blue color. It's still a little bit teal, but it's a lot more blue, so I'm going to dip it one more time. My piece has completely oxidized, and now I'm going to take it apart. This is probably going to take a little while, and I'm just going to be patient and go slow so that I don't poke any holes in my t-shirt. For this one, I'm going to use a seam ripper to take it apart instead of scissors. It's a lot more exact and precise, and also it helps me to not cut my fabric accidentally, which is such a shame. Look how beautiful this turned out. I got an amazing pattern here, so I am really pleased with this one. The next thing I'm gonna do is go and rinse it and then wash it. I still have some strings in it, so I gotta get them out. So I headed to my sink and started to rinse it with cold water until the water ran relatively clear, and then I added some Synthropol to get out the excess indigo. After I washed it by hand, I'm going to put it into my washer with hot and wash it with more Synthropol. Synthropol is also known as dyer's detergent, and it helps to prevent the excess dye from running and bleeding into the resist part of your pattern when you're washing it. It's also designed to get excess dye out, where normal laundry detergent is designed to get oil and grease out of your clothes. I use it for all my dyeing projects, and I'll link it down in the description for you guys. This one turned out really awesome. The colors are so deep, which is so cool. All those dips really paid off. I think that the shapes are in a really nice pattern. It's not perfectly exact, but they are in line with each other, so I think it looks really nice. Let's take a look at the back. Okay, so here's the back. You can see the pattern is not as defined, but I don't mind it. I think it almost looks like flowers. And if you wanted to have the back and the front the same, you would just have to tie the front and the back separately, which would be twice the amount of work and time. All right, guys, let me know down in the comments what you think of this pattern, and if you've ever tried a variation of it, how did it turn out? If you make any of the tutorials on my channel, be sure to tag me on Instagram at Onyx Art Studios. I love to see what you guys are up to. And if you like this video, be sure to check out this video next. All right, see you guys in the next one. Bye.